You know what? At the end of the day, I'm just another reader. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizard of the Reads. And as always, guys, I am Andrew. Today we are talking kind of unhauls and kind of a delicate subject. But before we get into that, please like this video and subscribe to the channel, as it does help the channel grow. And you can check the description box down below for links to all my social media, including information about my Patreon if you want to help support what I do here. Your support is always appreciated. It means the world to me that people out there support my hobby. That said, guys, we should just kind of jump right into this video, and you'll have to pardon me if I cough or I sound a bit funny. Huge head congestion. I'm a little bit on the sick side, but I still want to make this video while it's kind of fresh in my mind, because it's an important topic to talk about. Because even though I am a reviewer, I'm still just a reader, and that means I've got my own tastes. I've got my own reading style. I DNF quite a lot, and I DNF everything. I DNF self-pub, I DNF TradPub, and I DNF review copies. And that's kind of what this is about. Whenever I take a review copy, I accept my review copies in good faith that I think they do sound interesting and I do want to read them. But, there's kind of an exchange between, an author and reviewer when it comes to accepting a review copy. And the crux is I've got a bunch of review copies here that I'm just not keeping. And I'm actually going to open it up and make them available to you. And I will send them to you just for cost of shipping if you want to try these out and then possibly leave reviews for these books. Because while they weren't for me, they might be for you. I'm a very, very picky reader. But there's an exchange, because if I haven't read your book before, I can't know if I'm going to like the book. Unless, I go and do the extra steps, which I should start doing this. Should go and, do a sample chapter on Amazon. Amazon does sample chapters and stuff like that. And that could let me know if the writing was more to my style before I say yes. So that's, again, on me for accepting review copies when there are resources out there to at least sample something. Which I might do going forward if I continue to consistently accept review copies. I'm, partially closed to review copies right now, just because it's kind of like the monkey on my back. I feel like there is an expectation after accepting a review copy, which is why I really appreciate, and my general rule of thumb is if I accept a review copy, I can't promise a timeline, because I've become more and more of a mood reader the longer I do BookTube. And so when I accepted these, I've sampled them, I've tried them, or I've just fallen out of love with them, and that doesn't necessarily mean that these are bad books. But I want to preface that, these books have following, they have fans, and they are worthy of reading. They're just, right now, not my style. So the first one that I want to talk about is, I have actually read the first book in this series, and then I received the second book, and either I changed in the interim, or something was different with book 2, and it just wasn't for me anymore. But I know a lot of my friends really love this series, which makes me incredibly happy for this author. We have got Drowned Kingdom by P.L. Stewart. P.L. is literally one of the best human beings I have ever interacted with in the book sphere, be that on YouTube, Twitter. He is such a genuinely beautiful soul, and I've got nothing but love and respect for P.L. So I've read A Drowned Kingdom, and I believe I did a book review for it. But when I got to the last of the Atlanteans, I don't know if I was in a bad headspace. I fully intended to come back to this, and then days turned into weeks turned into months, and I've now lost any desire to return to the book. And I don't know if that's probably just a me thing. But now, the third book's out, and this is going to be a 7-book series, and I cannot see myself coming back to this series in an amount of time that kind of makes it worth keeping on my shelf. For me, shelf space is also very limited, so these are all physical copies that I'm unhauling because I am limited on space. But, again, if this is something you've been wanting to check out, I will send this internationally if you are willing to pay the shipping. But yeah, just comment down below or reach out to me on Discord, Twitter, what have you, and I will send these to you for cost of shipping. Just PayPal me, and I'll get them in the mail for you. They're great books. They're just, I actually really enjoyed the first book, but for me, I've lost the desire to continue the series. Next up is another one that I actually read. For the first book I read in its entirety. I did a book review for it. And then this month I was reading it, and the first 15% was great, and then my desire to read it just completely fell away. Like something changed. I don't know what. But that is The Grim Hunt by Ryan G. Beatty. And these, I'm also, again, same deal with Drowned Kingdom. If this sounds appealing to you, you can drop it in the comments down below or DM me. I've got all 5 of these in hardcover, so just cost of shipping. But essentially, this is very much reminiscent of the Witcher video game, and I think that's where my main issue lies with it. It felt like a novelty in the first book, but by the time I got to the second book, I still was getting those kind of video game vibes from it, and it just, like, I was like, oh, maybe I could read this series as palate cleansers. And it got to the point where I was just like, I don't want to read the next page. My brain was calling for something else. And so that, again, could be a mood read thing. But for me, there's been a year between when I read Crown of Madness to Binding of Souls. And at this point, it could be another 2 to 3 years before I find time to get to the rest of the series. So I'm going to cut my losses where I'm at here. But this is a very fast-paced, very readable series. I will give it that. Like, in 2 days, I was 30% into book 2. And I'll show you the covers. Why not? I'll show you the covers. We've got, this is book 5, Dragon of Destiny, right there. Book number 5. I love that cover. We've got Rite of 9. I think that's book 4. It is book 4. Book 3 is Winter of Contempt. And then we've got Crown of Madness book 1 and book 2, Binding of Souls. So I'm going to be letting those go and removing those from my review copy list. This one, it sounded really good, and then I read the first chapter. And again, I am very, very picky when it comes to my DNFing and things of that nature. And if I'm not vibing with a book, I can't push through. I'm just not the kind of reader. I'm human. I'm fallible. Very fallible. And yeah, I'm currently in a place with my mental health where I have to read for enjoyment. If I can't be one of those readers who is anti-DNF. If I'm not enjoying a read and I push through, that will send me straight into a slump. And so this I've only read the first chapter of, and I couldn't get into the prose or the vibe of the story. So this one, gorgeous covers. And again, a very, very kind author. He's great to interact with on social media. And again, same deal applies. If this sounds appealing to you, let me know in the comments or DM me directly. But we've got The Altar of Fate by Michael Schoolthesis. And this is the Rostavel Saga, book number 1. This is kind of like a Prince of Persia style sword and sorcery. Right here. It says, Rostavel lusts for the warrior's path, the spoils of victory, and the ancient power that could help him lead his tribe to greatness. So I've got book 1 here, Altar of Fate. I've got book 2 here, The Spiral of My Destiny. It's Altar of My Fate. There's always these little of my's that I always miss when I'm talking about these books. And then The Third Way of My God, which is book number 3. And again, like I started reading the series, and immediately it was just my brain doesn't process this prose, or doesn't process the prose the way that I kind of associate with enjoying a book. And then I read the first chapter of this one. This one was kindly sent to me by the author, who's been very patient, sent all the way from Australia. So this is where I start feeling bad. And it's also why I've started getting away from physical copies of review copies, because like certain ones, yes, I will accept review copies physically if I'm absolutely certain. but this is one I should have sampled the chapter of, just because it's a very elevated style of prose that isn't quite what I like to enjoy reading. I'm very picky when it comes to elevated prose, and I nitpick very quickly. That's what happened with, what's that Samantha Shannon book, The Priory of the Orange Tree. It had a particular, like, style of prose that I immediately went, I don't enjoy that style of prose. And so this just came down to, this isn't just my thing. But I got through the first chapter of The Tome of Haran by Damian Francis. This is an epic fantasy book. It is huge, but it sounds really cool. I really wish this was my style of book, because the story sounds amazing. The Tome of Haran, a powerful book made from magic with vast stories of knowledge that could shift the balance of a war brewing at the edge of Narin's borders, and one young man will become the keeper for all to survive. That just sounds really, really cool. So I wish this one was for me. I do still have e-copies of The Last of the Atlanteans, and I do own the ebook of the Tome of Haran as well. So that I could continue these stories at a later date. I just also need space on my shelf, and I just don't see myself reaching for it anytime soon. I read this is a novella collection. And again, a very good friend of the channel, a wonderful individual. I know Nico loves this individual's books. And I did read the first novella in this collection, and I will probably read the second novella at some point when the mood calls to me. This is The Void Walker Collection by Derek Bailey. And essentially, this one's kind of like, think of like a really interesting television premise, where this person's kind of got this everyday life that they're not really enjoying, but when they fall asleep, they come to this kind of Edwardian, Victorian style of like manor house with lavish dinners, and then all of a sudden there's a murder mystery in their dreams, and he starts to kind of try and figure out if it's real or not. It's very interesting. But it goes, welcome to the manor, where parties with only the finest food and most interesting of people are held. But is this place a paradise or a trap? Are the people here friends or enemies? Is it even real? The Voidwalker collection packages all 8 parts of the Voidwalker novella series into one combined edition, complete with new cover art and a preface, and some additional sketch artwork not included in the original Kindle editions of the novellas. This is a cerebral adventure that you won't want to skip. And I think right there at the very end is my issue with it, is it's too cerebral for me. I'm very much like, I just like my story and my adventure. I'm not one of these big brain booktubers who's going to like get into subtext and context and theme and all that sort of stuff. I can occasionally, but not all the time. And then these two, one of the ones that I'm gonna kind of hold up is I just kind of lost interest in it. I started reading it and it didn't immediately pull me in, and I am just a reader who needs to be hooked fairly quickly, and that's just me being picky. This is Quiet Thunder by J.P. Harker, and again, I fell in love with the cover here, and I know that this author also did Wildcat, which was fairly well received last year. But this is for generations. The Kotvian tribe had lived as an occupied nation, content to forget their warrior ancestry and live under the Empire's laws in exchange for their protection. But Karian, who wishes only for the quiet life of a farm steward, soon learns that her home is not as protected as she thought. The savage Syrian tribe have decided to liberate their neighbors from the Empire, regardless of what their neighbors think of this notion. For Karian, it seems the days of the Kotvian warriors are not over yet. So that is Quiet Thunder. I started it, and it just didn't pull me in super quickly. And then this one, I just think there's certain content and a certain level of darkness in this one that isn't for me. And this is The Sword of Mercy and Wrath, Swords of Dominion, Book 1 by N.C. Kousis. This is an SPF B09 semifinalist, and I know a lot of my friends who love this book. This is a werewolf dark fantasy or grim dark novel. I know there's currently a second book out as well, and this is the second review copy I've gotten of this. It was rewritten, and the updated version was sent to me before I could ever get to the first version, because I think the author felt like the first book felt a little too YA, and they wanted to make it adult grimdark, and so they added like 30,000 words. So they added like 30,000 words, and that's why we've got this current edition of the book. Again, SPFBO semifinalist. It's very well received, but right now I just don't think that this is a book that is going to be for me. But basically, let's read the back of the book. In a cathedral at the south of the Istrian Empire, young men and women are trained to be killers. The Order of the Golden Swords Inquisitors are feared for their brutality masked as piety, masters of blade, poison, and crossbow. Their quarry is the god-cursed werewolf, whom they hunt with impunity to herald the return of their god. Betrayed by her monstrous father, Selene loses her left arm and nearly loses her life when she's saved by a traveling inquisitor. Scarred and broken, she swears vengeance on the cursed beast and joins the order. It takes all her will to overcome her limits, only for her violent past to drag her back into blood. With the fabric of the Empire at stake, Selene must master her hatred, hone it to a sharp point, and then let it loose on her enemies. And that is the Sword of Mercy and Wrath. Again, I want to preface that I am not DNFing these books simply because they're bad books. They're just books that aren't for me. And for all of these, the offer stands. If these sound interesting to you and you want to try them out and you think you're going to read them, love them, and leave reviews, then by all means, please hit me up on Twitter, Discord, in the comments section, and we can start chatting about just paying shipping, and I will get them out to you as soon as I can. And yeah, I hope these books find great homes and they get glowing reviews. That's all I really got for you today, guys. This was a kind of a more difficult video for me to make. This kind of topic makes me generally uncomfortable just because it is a sensitive topic to touch on. But again, a lot of these books were written by friends of the channel, people I consider just amazing human beings. So yeah, please check these out. Even if you don't end up with these specific review copies that are in my hands, they are worth checking out. So if they sound interesting, please buy these and check these out. That's all I really got for you today, guys. So till next time, peace out, stay magical, bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons. Thank you for supporting my passion.